here's Brody Brazil.
I'll be honest, for the last 2 months or so, my mind has constantly been cluttered with this A's situation, potential relocation to Las Vegas, and a lot of people hoping that they stay in Oakland. And I've got so many thoughts, but a lot of times there's just a certain amount of things that do not make sense. I can't put them together. Or when I try and explain them to somebody else, they don't understand. Then I realize, you know what? I actually don't understand that part either. And I'm not talking about logistical, difficult to understand things. I'm just saying things that I can't really put two and two together on. But I want to separate all that from what just obviously seems surreal. And there's no surprise. We've been talking about the A's looking for a new home here in the Bay Area for multiple decades, and to various degrees of coverage over the years. Sometimes people said, they'll figure it out. They'll never leave. But like we are right now, just one final step away, Major League Baseball approving relocation from the A's leaving Oakland. There are a couple smaller other things that might get in the way, but there's one big thing left, and that's it. And that is so surreal because, I understand the Raiders left town. I understand the Warriors moved out of Oakland across the bay to San Francisco. But Major League Baseball teams in recent years, they just do not do this. One franchise, the Montreal Expos, have moved in the last 51 years. They became the Washington Nationals starting in 2005. This does not happen all the time. It's crazy to hear conversations and people talk about this officially because for so many years there was loose and light speculation, and now we're here in the very thick of this. And we're not only in the thick of it, like we're on the final few steps of it becoming reality. So I just want to point out, things I don't understand are about to come your way, but all of this with the additional understanding that this just feels so surreal. I sometimes have to remember I can't believe this is actually happening. So let's begin with what doesn't exactly make sense. And you saw the renderings. Literally, they came out the same day that the Senate bill, SB 509, was introduced, on the very last day possible of the Nevada State Legislature's regular session. Those three images, those three renderings, that's all we have. But we also know that they're going to put what they think, the A's think, is the first retractable roof ballpark in Major League Baseball on just 9 acres. Now, there's other videos I've got here on the channel which literally show you via Google Earth. I go out and trace all of them. And none of them sit on 9 acres or, honestly, anywhere close. The next smallest footprint I could find of a retractable roof ballpark in Major League Baseball was home of the Brewers, American Family Field. It is about 11.71, I think. That is significantly bigger than just the 9 acres that the A's ballpark would be limited to on the site of the Tropicana Hotel. I say limited to because that's the deal they struck with Bally's and GLPI, the Gaming and Leisure Properties Incorporated, was to take 9 of, I think, a total 35 acres on this site and get it for free. So I don't know that they can expand to 10 or 12 or 13 acres if they need it. They're constrained to just 9 acres. And there's got to be a reason why no other Major League team has a retractable roof stadium that sits on that small of a footprint. Now, modern architecture is amazing. Maybe there's a way to do this, but it's yet to be done. And I say all that separate from those 3 renderings, which, by the way, were so off scale it's not even funny. Look at those renderings. Picture 35 acres as the entire block. Where's the new hotel they're going to build supposed to go? Why does that ballpark take up literally half of 35 acres? That's more like 17 and change, not 9. That's double, essentially, the 9-acre site. So this is one thing that just, from the beginning, has never made sense. Moving to Las Vegas would require, I say, 4 years of a temporary home. If all of this were to get officially approved later on in this 2023 season, that means the A's are going to play 2024 in Oakland, their farewell season at the Coliseum, but kind of a lost season, I'll be honest, knowing that there is an expiration date. What about 25, 26, and 27? Now, we've all been there before. changing homes, and sometimes the buy and sell or rent and lease expiration date, like they don't mesh perfectly. And sometimes you got to crash at a friend's house for days or weeks or hopefully not months, or move back in with your parents for a bit. It happens. It happens to the best of us. But 3 full baseball seasons, probably not in Oakland, at least, maybe not in Las Vegas. Who knows? That's an important part of this plan, but that's a long time. And that's just the cards that the A's are dealt in this situation. But going to a site like the Tropicana where there's already something there, a business that's already being run, you got to level the place. You got to do this step by step. 4 years of a temporary home. I mean, Major League Baseball, and I think the owners across the board and the Players Association, they're at least going to have some questions about that. But I say it doesn't make sense to me. That one doesn't happen very often. You know what really didn't make sense to me were the projections to nearly sell out this ballpark for about 30 straight years in order to service the bonds floated out by Clark County. Is it $140 million? Somewhere around there that Clark County is going to float in bonds that need to be serviced, like paid back. And the way they'll get paid back is by tax revenue from that 9-acre ballpark site. So you need the team and the site and the stadium and sales to be successful to pay Clark County back. And the A's have promised that, yeah, you'll be able to sell out this ballpark like all the time. It's small. It's only 30,000. So you can average 28,000 year after year. But here's the thing. Most ballparks around the country that average 28,000, like we'll take T-Mobile Park in Seattle, Washington, home of the Mariners. Last year, they were that 50 percentile that the A's and Jeremy Aguero talked about, that they'd like to reach the 50th percentile of MLB attendance. That's nice, but that's not so easy to attain when your stadium only seats 30,000. I think there's more on this later, but averaging 28,000 when your maximum limit is only 30, what do you do to compensate every game you have 17,000? And that does happen. Day games, getaway day games, school year still going on, like early season games in April, night games. It's going to happen. It happens across the country. For Las Vegas to think they're entirely immune to this and different from this, over time, I think they'll find out that's not the case. Going back to Seattle, the reason they can average 28,000 a game last season, literally, is because their stadium seats, I think, 47,000. So for all the games that early in the year they got 16, 17 on a Tuesday night, whatever, they can pack the place and have 44,000 and totally make up for those slow nights. So some of the projections and numbers that I heard, and I'm not a politics guy, I'm not an economist, certainly not even great at math, but I am a sports guy. I know the trends, I know the ebbs and flows, I know how this works, and I don't get a ton of sense from those projections. At least they don't make sense to me. How about Nevada lawmakers who took a total of 10 days? And as Steve Yeager, the Speaker of the Assembly, pointed out, there were 3 separate specific hearings for the stadium bill. But I mean, one of them happened on a holiday. They all happened over a 10-day span. And all of it was to decide a yes vote for the Senate and the Assembly, but going against public opinion. Now, was there ever a truly thorough and detailed and high-volume poll done among Nevadans or even residents of Clark County or Las Vegas? No, not really. I mean, honestly, there's not one specific one that I said, that is the authority, that is how most people feel out there. But every single one of the smaller polls I saw did not favor this bill passing, like by a large margin, by like an 80 to 20 percentage. So this happened very quick in a special session, and the public sentiment, either through polls or real life, did not seem super obvious about this should go through. but it did. Like really fast. Here's another thing I certainly did not understand. When the commissioner, Rob Manfred, came out a couple days after the reverse boycott game, and the legislature passing the public funding for the state of Nevada and Clark County, Rob Manfred was asked about the A's situation in a press conference, and he literally claimed there was no site, there was never a site, and there was never a plan in Oakland. It doesn't, I mean, I guess it does make sense if he's trying to play a strategy here, but what he was trying to do made no sense. And if he thought he was being honest, he wasn't. It really makes no sense. The A's themselves touted Howard Terminal and the EIR and the lawsuits that were defeated to preserve its ability to, have a baseball stadium. And every step along the way, the A's talked about it. The A's talked about spending $100 million for the process to get to where it got. Rooted in Oakland, Howard Terminal or bust. Those aren't my words. Those are things the A's came up with. How could you say in reverse that, none of this ever was a thing? Again, it doesn't make sense from a surface level perspective. I'm trying to go as deep as possible, and I still don't understand how that made sense to say that, in a reasonable way. Here's something else from the Oakland side of it. Why Mayor Sheng Tao has never connected with Major League Baseball or been connected or wanted to connect. Look, she took office in January, was elected late 2022. And, there was the whole agreement to silence between Oakland and the A's and part of this, final steps of negotiation. But it's just amazing to me that maybe at this point, she has already said she's going to take herself out of the equation. Oakland's not going to be used as leverage in this process. And I get it. April 19th, as soon as the A's turned all their attention to Las Vegas and kind of turned their backs on Oakland, she wanted to step away and just, take herself and Oakland out of this mix and let it play out elsewhere. At the same point, I'm not saying it's entirely her responsibility at all to contact Major League Baseball. Baseball didn't contact her. She's not reached out to them. Wouldn't it be nice for her to have some type of positive and good relationship with Rob Manfred and vice versa? I mean, I know there's high pressure and tension and feelings here all the way around. I'm in the middle of it too. I totally get it. But at some point, maybe creating your own line of communication is beneficial for the mayor's office, for the city of Oakland, and baseball fans here in Northern California. Again, I'm not putting all the blame on Mayor Tao. I don't know if it's Rob Manfred's responsibility or not to do his own work and make his own connections in this as well. It's just amazing to me that, the A's are the middle people here. There's Oakland, there's Major League Baseball, and these two sides have so much at stake, but yet they've never even talked to each other. Doesn't necessarily make sense. The A's use the claim of rooted in Oakland. I talked about that earlier, but haven't even really addressed Oakland with the exception of, April 19th when they said, hey, we're sorry, we tried, we're putting all our attention down in Southern Nevada. And there was really never an explanation of, why is this breaking off in Oakland? What was the ultimate thing that could not make this happen? And I think the timeline might have been the one thing I heard, but that was also the same point when we thought a new Las Vegas ballpark could be open by 2027. Now it's 2028. And I think the reference to Howard Terminal was, it couldn't even be done until 2029. But the city then said, no, that's not actually true. And especially if it was just a ballpark, like you're doing and wanting to do in Las Vegas. And I know some people will say, the A's also haven't said much to their Oakland faithful fans of more than, 55 years at this point. They haven't said much. They haven't directed much. I don't know that that's meant to be an insult or a slight to Oakland. I think that anything they say to the community of Oakland right now is going to invoke a bunch of different responses and things that are maybe out of their control. I don't know if it's the right thing to do to not address Oakland here, but it's definitely the easiest thing to do. And that's what's happening. But, some reasoning, some ideas, some explanations, a lot of that would be nice and help us have more of a sense of what's the intention here. If the A's were to relocate to Las Vegas, that would be Major League Baseball's smallest media market, and the stadium at 30,000 would be the smallest fan capacity. Now, that's been a criticism of the A's over the years, which is weird because they're not really in the smallest media market. They're in one of the top 7 or 8 here in Northern California, the San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose market. It's all combined into one. But Las Vegas, if the Bay Area is 7 or 8, Las Vegas is 40, which would be the smallest of any Major League Baseball team. Opportunities, media income, revenue. This is my business, so I'm going to stay out of the weeds on this one. Fan capacity, the ability to keep drawing as many fans as possible. You don't have 8 million fans to draw from in Las Vegas. And also this, Las Vegas has Henderson and North Las Vegas as its suburbs, and Summerlin, I guess. That's kind of it. I mean, even here in the Bay Area, if people say, well, Oakland is small, but yeah, it's the Bay Area. And not to mention a short drive away from Sacramento, huge market, could be its own Major League Baseball market. Stockton, Monterey, Napa and Sonoma up north. I mean, there are so many other opportunities a short drive away. Las Vegas doesn't really have that in the short drive away capacity. So to use the excuse of, well, we're a small market team and that limits us. Well, now you're really doubling down on that. And I'm not sure that makes sense in this at all. Here's another one. There was never even a group dedicated to try and bring Major League Baseball into Las Vegas. Other places across the country, like literally right now, Orlando, there's the Dreamers group. Salt Lake City, there's a group. Dave Stewart and Nashville are trying something separate. They want to bring specifically expansion baseball to Tennessee, right? But at least there is a group there. There's an organized group of people with a plan to help facilitate things, to lay the groundwork. There was never any of that in Las Vegas. There was not even really like an ambassador say, hey, Oakland A's, come here, let me help you out. They hired Jeremy Aguero. They got a relationship with Steve Hill of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. But that was not a pre-existing group that had been trying for years or decades or whatever to try and obtain a baseball team. So it kind of goes along with the idea that, the A's were trying to get to Las Vegas more than Las Vegas was really ever trying to get the A's or anybody else as a Major League Baseball team. By the way, shout outs to Portland and Charlotte and Montreal. I know they also exist with groups trying to obtain Major League Baseball. I talked earlier about some of the numbers that just didn't crunch for me. Here's another one. I mean, what pro sports team in the history of all the leagues has ever said, you know what, we're actually going to rely on a significant amount of tourists to fill our seats? Now, in fairness, I would say no place in the world draws tourists like Las Vegas, but I think Orlando draws about 50% more. Is it 40 million a year for Las Vegas and 60 million a year or more for Orlando? And also, what is the type of tourist that you're actually drawing? I mean, the times I've been to Las Vegas for leisure, let me share this with you. All the times I've been there for fun were before I was a dad. No, I take it back. Nope, that's not true. One time was just me and my wife, but that's it. Every other time is not really a family trip to Las Vegas. You're going there for a reason, to celebrate, to party, to do something like that. But the A's would be, I think, the first pro sports team ever to rely on 9,000 tourists per game. They've said a 70-30 mix of locals versus tourists to make up their attendance of 30,000. 9,000 fans per game. Let me do the math on this. What did I say? 40 million tourists per year into Las Vegas. Divide that by 365. I think that's around 110,000 tourists, new tourists per day. And again, sometimes it's a lot in one day for a convention. Maybe there's slower parts of the year, but on average, 110,000 new tourists per day coming into Las Vegas. So you're telling me that they're going to get 9,000 out of those 109,000 new tourists every single game day, 81 home games? It's like 7 or 8%. It might be possible for football season. Like people will make a weekend out of a Raiders playing the Broncos game or Raiders hosting Kansas City, and they've done that. They literally did that last year. And people might make a short trip in from LA or San Diego to see their Padres or the Angels or the Dodgers. Maybe even Giants fans would come down to see the Giants play. But to think that over and over again, you're going to get that number, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying I'd be surprised. And as of right now, for baseball, it doesn't make sense. For football, we've seen it kind of happen. But that's complete apples and oranges. You're talking about 8 or 9 total home football games every year. Las Vegas is great at events. Big expanded seasons like this, as the Golden Knights owner Bill Foley said, wow, congrats to the A's, but that's a lot of baseball games. So that one really didn't make sense to me. I think that was 10 total things that I just have a hard time wrapping my brain around at this point. And again, to separate, some things are flat out surreal. Like, we're here. This process is happening. We're having these conversations. But as part of it, there's, just a lot of things that don't add up right now. So we'll see how time shakes them out. Let me know what you think about this video in the comment section below. Thumbs up here since you made it all the way till the end. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel so that I can see you next time.